Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back. We're here in the Nanyang qualifying rounds. It is going to be Dragon Slayers facing off against Digital Chaos. Game number 2 in this best of 3. Spoiler alert, Digital Chaos won game number 1. I'm Lyrical, joined today by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Sir, we saw a little bit of shenanigans going off last time. The last pick Brood kind of threw them for a loop, but also in each of the other lanes, it was really effectively played by Digital Chaos and then ended up coming out with the win. What's your thoughts going into game number 2? What do we need to be worried about? Well, there's a life stealer, so that's going to happen.
Don't do exactly what you did before in terms of like Dragon Slayers play. Last game felt a lot like 5 kindergartners picking a fight with a wood chipper. Like the more they went at it, the worse it went. You know what I mean? So for Digital Chaos, it did, I think, come down to that Brood pick. It applied more pressure onto the safe lane for Dragon Slayers, which meant that the mid went worse for Dragon Slayers. Mid was a lane that was supposed to win, but it didn't because there was a lot more available support rotation coming out of Digital Chaos because their draft applied more pressure from an individual hero elsewhere. It just the whole thing synergized really well in terms of laning theory, not necessarily in terms of individual team fight skills, but that's a whole nother type of synergy that you don't normally see executed or talked about, at least in like the drafting phase. And I think Digital Chaos showed us why that's an oversight in the way that we tend to analyze hero synergy.
Absolutely, and they showed off their stuff in game number 1, definitely. We're going to see a different look this time from Dragon Slayers, opting to switch things up. We did see the Elder Titan first round banned out. No real surprise considering what DC were capable of doing. I guess this is what we've come to in NA Dota, but they're going to go back for the Nature's Prophet and the Doom. 2 heroes that can definitely be a part of stuff very early on. Nature's Prophet being run, I'm assuming, in that off-lane role, and then Doom might even hop in there as a little bit of a buddy-buddy thing going on. If they do end up doing that, like, and maybe if Doom finds one of those, this is something that I've kind of wondered about. The Alpha Wolf is always taken in the late game. Do you think that there could be some value in taking that early in like a lane with a Nature's Prophet to give that aura around?
Probably not as much as having armor for Doom, because Doom's base armor is 0, and it does not take much to tear through this guy like tissue paper if he doesn't have both a ring of protection and something like a wildkin for armor, or if he doesn't have some sort of an escape potential like a stun, right? We do often see Dooms go for the Satyr around the mid game. I think that the one Hadoken from the Satyr would probably give you more damage than all of the right clicks of a fight for the early game with the Alpha Wolf crit, though I don't have the numbers in front of me. My gut tells me that that's probably true.
I'm with you. It does make sense. I mean, and oftentimes when you look at those things, it's percentage based too, right? The damage that comes out from it. So, I mean, static numbers that do burst damage are always going to be higher in the early game than that thing ends up being in the later stages. But the Beastmaster is going to be the other hero picked now for Digital Chaos, so they're going to be able to get it this time around. And a lot of value in those first 2 picks for DC. I'd be a little bit concerned at this stage. They could kind of run the same type of thing that they did last time, but even more effectively now with the Inner Beast aura being available as well. I'd be a little bit concerned if I'm Dragon Slayers.
Yeah, to be fair, Dragon Slayers do have Doom now. Doom can be a pretty effective tool for kiting Life Stealer, preventing him from using the open wounds, preventing him from being able to rage out of things. It is not by any means a failsafe, and he's not your always priority target because he's not a huge caster. But if Life Stealer is a big problem like he was last game, just simply being able to kite him is a big step in the right direction. And Doom does provide some of that.
Yeah, I think that that's a good thing to keep in mind. And oftentimes when I think about the hero of Lifestar, I just think about the right-click potential. But there's a lot of nuance to how he ends up getting to that potential, where he, infests into somebody, he then pops back out. He can use that sometimes to avoid damage. He can go into rage mode, open wounds to make sure that he gets close to somebody. He really does rely a lot upon those things, and Doom obviously cancels all of that out. As far as the other heroes that have been banned out now, we're not going to be seeing the Alchemist, nor the Vengeful Spirit, Io, or the Viper. As far as the next stage of picks goes, do you think that there's any potential that we see Dragon Slayers try and run something a little bit cheesy? They're a little bit outmatched, I think, as far as the sort of team synergy goes. Maybe not necessarily individual skill. There's a lot of very skilled players on Dragon Slayers, but do you think maybe something along the lines of a Drow strat could be possible?
It's possible. I don't think it's super likely with the Doom already sitting there in.
Yeah.
I guess that is probably a 4-spot Doom, so it's not a core position Doom, but uh, I'm gonna hedge on no.
Yeah.
With it's possible being there. Also, the deal is if unless you Doom out the Lifestealer, Drow really is good at kiting heroes until they get magic immunity, but once they get magic immunity, they just walk right up to her and slap her around like a ragdoll, right? The Lifestealer is born inbred with magic immunity, which makes it very difficult for the Drow Ranger to handle him because the silence doesn't push him back.
Okay. Well, we'll see what they end up going for. For now, it looks just like a straight-up game of Dota 2. The Lion is going to be the next pick. That instant disable, pretty solid against Lifestealer and Beastmaster, to be honest. You're going to be able to find a fight. But the problem that I do see is maybe not being able to have the best... I guess not the best, but not as good of a vision advantage as the Beastmaster is going to give you. Nature's Prophet Treants can do it to some extent, but... it does feel like vision might be a bit of a premium in terms of setting off these team fights, and whoever gets that initial barrage of spells off is going to be the ones that end up being in a better spot. I always feel like that's an opportunity there for like a Doom to eventually transition into a Shadow Blade in the late game. It always can be such a great item, like game-winning potentially.
Yeah, especially the later you go, the less likely your opponents are going to want to hold on to an empty slot for gem or dust, right? It is something that can be useful on the Doom. In this particular case, I think that with the Nature's Prophet, with the team fight of the Lion, we'll probably see more like a mech-oriented build come out of the Doombringer. He seems like the natural holder out of the trio that we see here so far. Enchantress going to be the pick here for Digital Chaos.
5 seconds remaining.
That worries me a little if I'm Dragon Slayers, because up until this point they've had some potential, like, oh, we can kite out a bit, we can make this work with just trying to rely very heavily on dragging these fights out, pulling it away. But now as you kite out the Lifestealer, the Enchantress's impetus is going to do more damage. Right? That's a serious issue. And then in addition, Enchantress will definitely be going for a Force Staff to move into that Hurricane Pike. And that's just going to make it all the harder to kite out the Lifestealer through the mid game.
This to me looks so scary. Like if they pick Jug right now, or any of those other sort of like strong pushing heroes, already DC are in such a dominant position. Because you look at these lineups right now, they take the Dragon Knight for Dragon Slayers, makes sense. But it does kind of pose an issue where the supports that they're sort of signaling that they're going to have, the Doom and the Lion, aren't the best at pushing creep waves out on their own without putting themselves at risk. And that does pose a pretty big problem because all of these heroes from Digital Chaos already have a tremendous amount of push potential, and that dual aggressive offlane that you sometimes see of Beastmaster and Enchantress can just be devastating. You can absolutely take that tower very early on, and I'm not sure if a Lion alone is going to be able to do much to zone them out. And like a Doom as a supporty type of hero, you don't want to have to keep them in lane. I'm almost wondering if they have to radically change the dynamic of this draft and even think about trying to dodge that lane.
They do also need to be careful. There is still a Dazzle in the pool. There's still Phoenix in the pool. God. There comes the Phoenix right there, right? So Phoenix is going to give you a ton of sustain on potential pushes. He's going to allow you to reset fights. Phoenix is extremely good into no agility hero drafts, and it is looking like this is going to be at most a 1 agility hero draft. Just because knocking down the egg with strength heroes is brutally difficult. Their agility gain is not high enough to deal with the attack speed slow of the Fire Spirits until the late game at earliest, usually, right? So for the Phoenix to come out at this stage in this draft, having already phoned in or said, hey, look at our frontliners, Doom, Dragon Knight are not going to be able to pop that egg, that's hard to deal with. So now you've got a Phoenix Supernova that's difficult to knock down, probably forcing Dragon Slayers back from it most of the time if it's well placed. And while they're running away, they're getting hit by Impetus Bombs, and Lifestealer is trying to pull them in with open wounds. This is just great pacing synergy. None of these moves like Wombo Combo, you know, it's not a Tide Hunter ult on top of a Chronosphere with a black hole, but in the way that these guys should be able to ebb and flow and force aggro off of each other, it actually looks like it will synergize very well from Digital Chaos.
Honestly, if they wanted to... Oh
wow,
my God,
okay.
Yes, we got it. I was going to say, honestly, with this draft that you have from Digital Chaos already, you could have like a really awkward mid that doesn't normally work well in that situation. I was thinking like a Tide Hunter or an Axe maybe, but Meepo fits the bill, and Weehaw plays it just about as good as anybody else in the world. I am so excited for this game. I do have to say it might be rather quick if Dragon Slayers don't come up with something that really solves a lot of their problems. I'm not sure what that is.
Dragonite is a high health hero. The poof is not going to be by itself enough to deal with him, although Phoenix will probably go for the amplification of magic damage very early. Dragon Slayers need to push, and that means that they need to pick up some pushing heroes here. They're going to grab an Ember Spirit. He does an okay job of that. He's also pretty decent into the Meepo, just because obviously the Meepo is many units, and the Ember Spirit is able to chop down at many units at one time. He's also fairly escapable, making it more difficult to lock him down for the poof combo, but I mean, Digital Chaos, I like their draft more. More importantly than that, they are more experienced with these types of heroes than I think Dragon Slayers are with theirs.
The thing that I'm really worried about at this point right now is you look at this Meepo that's going to be coming out, and sure, Ember Spirit late game, you're great at being able to do it. You've got these heroes that ostensibly could cause some issues with, like, you know, trying to run something, split pushing with the Nature's Prophet. Eventually you get Aghanim Scepter that's going to be able to keep the lanes pushed out against the push that comes from DC. But honestly, all of these things I just feel like are going to come too late for Dragneel. I don't know if they're going to be able to come online quickly enough to deal with this. This could pose a lot of issues, and really the biggest things for me is it's sort of along the same lines as making sure that Meepo just doesn't get stacks. If they're able to control the jungle of DC, they stand a chance, but it's going to be a really tough game.
Just having picked up another strength hero into this Phoenix is a big problem in and of itself as well, right? You can't slide a fist to Supernova, and now they have 3 high HP heroes that are just going to be just ripped apart by Sunray. Like, absolutely lasered to death. This is like James Bond villain level of laser beam action that we're about to see coming out of Saksa. So the Meepo is going to be a problem, potentially. The Lifesteal is going to be a problem, potentially. If there are good rotations out of the Enchantress, that could be a problem as well. But keep an eye on this Phoenix, because he's probably going to be the playmaker that just tears asunder Dragneel, if Dragneel do, in fact, go down.
Oh, and we get a little bit of a right click that comes off that does signal to the Beastmaster that, hey, guess what? That Lion placed a ward up on your high ground tower. They realize that that's going on and are immediately going to back out and probably get that one dewarded. So pretty nice little win there at the start for DC, and I think that the first 10 minutes of this game are going to be quite telling as how the rest of it's going to go, and potentially the first 10 minutes will tell how the next 5 will go, or the next 40, depending upon, like, if DC do well or not. I don't know. I'm really concerned about Dragneel in this game.
Meepo is a black hole for resources. We haven't really talked about this yet, but it's difficult to run a Meepo effectively, just because he does soak up experience from all around the map. He does soak up gold from all around the map. With an Enchantress who's going to try to shift from a 4 spot to a semi-core, basically, like from support to semi-core or core at some point. You got a Beastmaster who is not the most item-dependent offlaner in the world, but he does like to get up an Necronomicon and some other items, potentially, as well as he needs to make sure he's getting levels, right? Lifestealer also, obviously, needs to get levels and gold at a pretty decent clip. DC could just not have the resources to run this draft. That's really, I think, their biggest problem. It's internal rather than external. Can they find the resources to make this draft work around the map?
Yeah, that's going to be a thing that they need to be able to do, and possibly trying to rotate into the enemy jungle and take advantage of it themselves might be one of the ways that they do that. But as for now, Doom is going to be doing his own jungling. You see that up here in the top lane, it's just going to be the Beastmaster for the moment, but in the bottom, they're going to chase out the Nature's Prophet, doing a whole heck of a lot of damage with the rotation from the Enchantress. And at least for now, this is where the Enchantress is going to be staying. I'm curious to see if she rotates up towards top to try and help out this Beastmaster at all, but at least for now, they don't seem to need to.
Yeah, the Beastmaster should be more or less okay up here. There is the Chain Stun potential that he might want to worry about, but with the Calm of the Wild Boar and with the Wild Hawk as well, he should have the vision that he needs to prevent any rotations from the Doom, and he should have the slow that he needs in order to drag out these chases well enough to keep him alive.
As for now, the last hits up on top is going to be Meepo with 12 and 3. Also, the Lifestealer doing fairly well. But you do take a look, and the jungle lane Doom has been able to get a nice amount for himself. And I do have to say that later stages in the game, it's a decent-ish answer to Meepo, kind of. Like, if you're able to find a pretty strong amount of damage against him and then keep one from poofing away, it does become a problem.
Dragonite is also not a terrible answer to Meepo. He's high armor, right? He's so you do have the poof, but poof is not going to be enough to get through a Dragonite's innate HP through the late game at least, right? But also Elder Dragon form is a splash attack, and remember, splash is not cleave. It instead of being based on your own hero's base model, it's based on the base model that you're attacking. So against a hero like Meepo, who tends to be right next to his allies.
Well, speaking actually, I know what you're saying. The only problem right now is Dragonite is not 6. And because of that, they find the kill pretty quickly on him.
That is far from the only problem in that situation that just happened, to be 100% honest. That rotation up, just really well played here from the Enchantress, moving out of the jungle, making sure that she's being active. Because of how greedy this draft is, she definitely needs to make sure that she's making plays here. The Phoenix is doing his best to try and make sure that Lifestealer has control of his lane, and he's doing pretty well therein. But if one of these lanes starts to slide out of control for Digital Chaos, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. If they continue to do well and exceed expectations in all of their lanes, then the greed punishment just isn't there.
That's true, definitely. And it's something that they're going to keep their eyes on. Oh, God. Actually, up here in the bottom lane, they're going to start to bring down the Nature's Prophet. They do have the Centaur there as well for the stun and no TP away. That's going to be another one going their direction as DC find a kill. Sox on this Phoenix is just doing what he needs to do and doing a pretty great job of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's his first kill. That's going to be the first of many kills that he is a part of, more than likely. And we're already going to see, like, that Sunray. You've got a strength core in almost every lane. Right, the Doom jungle, when he comes out of the jungle, he's going to have quite a bit of difficulty actually sustaining in any of these fights once again into that Sunray. They have no answer to the Supernova once 6 comes either. Weehaw, a rare miss of a net.
Oh, he gets him with the second one, though, and they are going to be able to poof in on this. Nice Hex coming out there. Might be able to find something. A little bit of an overextension, and now Weeha's going to end up paying for this. He did not end up hitting the initial net, which meant the gank was not clean. And suddenly, Dragneel pick up a really high-impact kill.
Yeah, he had some baking soda or something cut into that. He needed the direct hit, my friend. You can't have this slighted high going on for the Meepo strategy that they have. I am been up for so long. You don't even know what's going on in my brain. Yeah, no, they can't be giving up kills like that. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
I'm with you. No, totally, absolutely. It's a problem. Down here in the bottom lane, they're going to try and do a little bit of a push, but as the TP is canceled, the Icarus dive had started off, and they should be able to do a good amount of damage to this tower. Also committing that Sunray to heal back up a couple of the creeps and make sure that the other ones are going down. So maybe even going to be able to finish it off as they have a secondary creep wave that's going to come in. The TP rotation is going to be there from the Nature's Prophet, and they got to be
what's Sneaking going to do? He's going to watch from the sideline. Sox doesn't have Icarus dive, actually. Never mind.
Yeah, overextends and ends up paying for it. Now the Infernal Blade trying to turn this one back around does a little bit of damage, but they're going to have to back, so pretty good rotation. They were able to find one.
I can't believe that they were that far forward with no Icarus dive available. That was silly, to be honest. I don't know another word that's not insulting for what that was. They didn't end up getting that tower, though they did get very close. The Lifestealer is doing very well, as is the Meepo, right? Meepo sitting on top of 41 last hits. Lifestealer sitting at 40. But the Ember Spirit and Dragonite are not so far behind, especially the Ember Spirit.
Yeah, I like the Ember Spirit too. I was about to mention that he's getting some of what he needs, at least for now. He's going to be going for that Wraithman. Just finished up his bottle as well. So if he's able to build into a relatively quick Boots of Travel and then start pushing out those creep waves, it could put him in a decent position to be able to stall the game. And every little thing, like that bottom tier 1 tower, the fact that this hasn't fallen yet, this is really relatively important. Like if Ember Spirit's able to get a Battle Fury, I think that they stand a chance in this game.
Yeah.
The death on the Meepo as well as the failed push on the bottom lane, these are things that DC need to be careful about.
I don't know that if I were going up against DC's draft, I would really want to hope for the late game. But stalling is a great word for what they need to do. They need to stall their opponents out until Dragneel themselves are ready to go into the mid game. They can't let Digital Chaos hit the mid game stride first, which is what their draft implies that they'll do. Remember, these very greedy lineups that do a lot of jungling, they tend to scale into the mid game much more effectively if they're not punished, because you just have more resources on the team, more allocation that gets you there faster. So for Dragneel, being able to rotate and punish out as early as possible, just with a couple support rotations to make sure that those resources not going to be able to be utilized as early. Could go a long way for helping get this Ember Spirit and Dragon Knight, where they need to be before these actually break down into real combat.
Oh, and you look here as well. They're going to try and break into some combat right now. Actually going to maybe be able to snipe this courier. No, instead they're just going to go right for the Beastmaster, and that should be a quick and easy kill. Sheeped and doomed. Everything goes wrong for Moo in those couple of seconds, and now with the rotation from the Nature's Prophet, this should be a tower. I would assume they're going to rotate in on the Dragon Knight as well. Lifestealer Bomb comes out as the Icarus Dive finishes him off, and there's going to be the Sunray, which should ensure the kill as Dragon Knight drops. They trade their mid for the off lane, but they also get a tower going the way of Dragneel. And this is feeling like an okay trade. Do you think that they come back and try and defend their tier 1 in the mid?
Yeah, if they can. Do they all have TPs? I don't think that they... Oh, the Ember Spirit does. They're going to walk it. They're going to try to cut off the retreat at the pass, old friend.
No level 6 yet on Phoenix. They spot the Ember Spirit and is going to be able to get the chains onto 2. There's also the Wrath of Nature that is going to be a roar on the other side. Enchantress trying to run away. The Sunray's doing a lot of damage. And also the Lifestealer up in the face. Really nice net. Able to find that Ember Spirit. He goes down. Maybe going to be able to find more. But it looks like everybody else is going to be able to escape for the moment. So they get a really, really important kill on that Ember Spirit. And now looking to maybe try and pressure again, or possibly just go back to some more farming.
I like the optimism coming out of Dragneel, feeling strong enough that they could rotate in there, but they didn't do it with enough cohesion. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good thought. Try to come up behind them. One thing, Digital Chaos backed up a lot earlier, I think, than they expected. Weehaw might go down.
Yeah, Weehaw is going to drop here. Oh, Sunray not quite able to do it. The double remnant forward, but no more mana left to try and get the chains. So, again, tit for tat, but... we're not seeing the pull ahead by DC that they probably would have wanted given this lineup that they've got. I think the Dragneel are staying with them to some extent.
Yeah, the Dragneel are doing a good job of at least maintaining an even keel moving into this mid-game, which is exactly what they need for this stage. And as long as they can continue to apply pressure like this, they can kind of force the genie back into its bottle a little bit. The problem is the longer they do this sort of strategy, the more Digital Chaos is going to get an experience lead, because Digital Chaos are spread out around the map and they are allocating resources much more effectively. So the question is, can Dragneel optimize the tower gold that they're getting here into offensive combat advantage shortly thereafter? Because if they can't, then knocking down those towers doesn't actually give them an actualizable functional advantage.
Oh, and you see right here the Doom that gets dropped onto the Beastmaster from afar. I don't know if they're actually going to be able to find this. They do still have the Meepo in the area who can go for the nice Wrath of Nature, comes out to ensure that kill at the very end. So they do get something for their trouble. They lost the line, but they get the Beastmaster. A pretty nice exchange, and with no tier 1 tower in the top lane to pressure, it looks like this might just be the tier 1 mid going the way of DC potentially. Well, Dragon Knight comes in and dissuades them from going any further.
Yeah, they can afford to kind of slow push and hem and haw about this. They can afford to pick their pitch, so to speak. Because if they take a bad engagement, the game is going to spiral out of control. But if they take no engagements, the game will just continue around the same clip that it's continued at for them. At least until the Ember Spirit really starts getting going. And he is still not yet to his Travs. He's about 300 away. So for Digital Chaos, they've got time, right?
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I think that they're in a pretty good spot. I guess that it really just... is there anything else besides that Battle Fury timing that they need to be worried about? I guess, like, the other thing that's a little bit scary is if he goes for straight Battle Fury, you can kind of just find a kill with a Beastmaster Roar. Is there any opportunity where he might think about going for a Linken's first?
Who, the Ember Spirit? I don't think so. Most of what's going to be hitting him is non-targetable. Or,
okay.
You know, it's like right clicks, it's the Sunray is going to be a big one. I think going into the damage is probably the way to go here. Try to deal with the Meepo as early as possible, because you and I both know once that Meepo gets 6-slotted, once that Meepo starts to rail out of control, there's not a lot that you can do to stop him.
Ooh, they find one. Going on to him. Dragonite's going to go down. They do not have enough mana for AK. Has 4 stick charges. Needs to pop him and is going to Icarus dive away for the moment. So 3 heroes here in the mid lane. They also bring him on in. That is going to be a dead Phoenix. And now Hello is also going to drop. I think that they end up finding one more kill. Ember Spirit goes down. Actually, the Enchantress is going to live through it. Trying to run away. They're able to chase on down that Nature's Prophet. Does look like he's going to be able to escape. Unfortunately, Moo not able to get out of there. They get the Doom down onto another. And it looks like that's going to be the Lion dead. On the other side, Weeha able to deny the Enchantress. Exceptionally well played. So far, it's a 2-for-3 exchange, but I think the Doom's about to go down here as well. No way out, and he is going to be controlled, killed, and that's another one going the way of the Beastmaster.
Yeah, that was very nicely played by Digital Chaos. They got the deny on the Enchantress. They only lost to one other. They didn't spend anything huge there. The Primal Roar is already almost off cooldown. They didn't need to invest a Supernova. They can go directly out of that into a lane if they want to. Everything else from their opponents, the Finger was used, right? The Dragon Form was recently used as well. They really don't have anything to worry about for the next 60 seconds or so. They're actually going to try to move on to the Ember Spirit. He can't get away as long as he's in that net.
Well, they're thinking about going for the poof, just clear out the creep wave and head on back to Farmtown. That's what Meepo's about, and that's what he's going to keep on doing. You look at the 3 cores right now for DC after that fight. They've taken a pretty substantial lead, 4,000 across the team, as well as right around a 5,000 experience lead, and this is looking to be a pretty big problem. Also, Beastmaster now, almost at that Necro 3, means that he can pretty much solo almost anybody on the enemy team.
Yeah, and things are about to get really bad for Dragneel if they don't shore up their execution like right now. Items are starting to come in, right? Sange is done. Armlet and Mordigian is done for Lifestealer. The Ags just got finished for Meepo. He's going to farm that much faster. He's going to poof that much harder. Enchantress has had a Midas for a little while, which is going to very quickly actualize into levels.
Oh, God, and that's just the Lion dead. No spells off. The Enrage means that Lifestealer should be able to walk away for the moment. Sunray onto several, and they do also have the Icarus dive to follow this up, as well as the Supernova if they want to use it. Lifestealer staying alive. They're going to go through onto all of them. Haven't dropped that Supernova as of yet. Now they do finally drop it down. Still the Dragonite alive for the moment. Doom hit from afar with everything going his way. They kill off the Lifestealer, but the Dragonite dies, and that's 3 for 1 so far into a Roshan. Man, DC are rolling. They are doing everything they need to do right now.
That entire fight to me was encapsulated by one moment from this Nature's Prophet. You ready? He was walking up to the high ground while the Supernova was down here. He turned and attacked it once and then just left. Just walked away. And that felt like the whole fight. Dragneel engaged. They started looking strong, and they just weren't quite all together once again. And not to mention, they're playing at a pretty substantial disadvantage at this point. I don't think that they as players realized when they took that engagement how many items had just gotten finished for Digital Chaos. Like between their last fight and this fight, there were 3 or 4 either upgraded or new items that DC were able to leverage to their advantage. And Dragneel just got caught off guard.
This is the point in the game that we were worried about. We were talking about it was going to come up at some stage, and hitting this stride at 15 minutes, Aghanims and an Aegis on Weeha, it's just going to be so hard to take him down. Like, you've even got the Phoenix to be able to burst through the damage that comes out. I mean, we talked about the fact that Dragonite was good against the Meepo because the poof damage wasn't going to be enough to kill him, but poof plus Sunray probably can find that kill. Like, this is going to be an issue.
Oh, definitely.
Actually just going to jump onto him right now, trying to TP away. They get the net, and now Dragonite is going to drop a couple of really cool little mini things that happened within there. The initial net, he was able to TP away from that one. Weeha waited until the net was going to expire because he needed to reapply the net to be able to break the TP. Really, really high-level play from both sides there.
Yeah, you love to see that. And also the poof, even at this stage, the poof is not that scary to the Dragonite. What's scary is the follow-up fury of tiny hammers and geostrikes that beat you to a pulp, right? I mean, the poof only took a quarter of his health. It was the follow-up crap that really put him under. And as we mentioned several times, the Sunray is just... What do you do if you drafted 3 strength heroes into a Sunray, right? You evaporate. That's what the sun does.
Oh my god, just adding insult to injury. He comes back, TP's in on the Nature's Prophet, finds the kill, gets the deny. It's just, when it rains, it pours for Dragneel right now. And I mean, we kind of thought that this was going to happen. They also have a DD rune on this bottom spot. Meepo might pick this up in a second. Oh God, Gorgon, I'm shaking in my boots right now.
Yeah, this was the this was that mid game that we were really worried about. That we said Dragneel needed to stall to it. The problem is if you stall and your only plan is just keep stalling, eventually you fall out of the sky. Eventually you have to turn on your engines in that sort of strategy. And Dragneel never quite got going. They still need the Ember Spirit to get a Battle Fury, and he's far away from that, which no Battle Fury means that the Dragon Knight is going to need to basically hold the lines on his own. He's going to smoke up with the Lion. They're going to try to put up some vision. I don't even think that they can go out and try to get a kill here, though, to be honest. They're just going to have to use that to put up one little ward and be happy with the vision that gives them.
Yeah, it's a bit of an issue. They do have that one. They see Meepo moving into the woods, so that signals to them that there is probably something afoot, and you see the TPs away. You could also say, though, that at this point it could be worse for Dragneel. It's almost 20 minutes. They're going to try and push to high ground. If they take this tier 3, it's really almost GG, but if Dragneel can somehow find a way to hold this, this could be potentially a turning point. They go into the dragon form. The net is not going to hit right off the bat. They have been able to find the Dragon Knight now. A secondary net comes out, is going to be able to catch him, kill him. Almost it is going to fall. Meanwhile, on the other side, Doom gets roared. This is a huge problem now. GG just immediately called. They're over it. They've had enough. DC take it. Really well played by them.
Now, you said it could be worse for Dragneel. I guess it could have been worse, but 18-minute GG, I'm not sure. Could have been much worse. You know, it could have been more brutal, but the end result was going to be the same one way or the other.
Well, that's going to do it for our game number 2, DC take down Dragneel. We still have one more best of 3 that's going to be taking place in a little while here. That is, of course, going to be, which one is it? Team Freedom versus Not Today, and that's going to take place at 2100 hours Pacific Daylight Time. I'll let you know if that's going to get pushed up at all. Of course, this was a fairly quick 2-0, but we'll see in just a second. So stick around, everybody, for some more Dota 2 action. And thanks again, Wonder Cow, sir. Where can we find you? Any final little shout-outs before we end up signing this one out here?
Hey, guys, you can find me on Twitter at The Wonder Cow. Just shout out to BTS for having me. And if you are interested in my casting, or my day job is actually writing analysis about Dota, and you can find all my writing, which is far more honed than my casting has been today, on my Twitter.
All right, and of course, at Lyrical Dota, if you want, stick around, everybody. More from the Nanyang Championships, North American qualifiers. See you guys in a second.